The crested satin bird is around 24 centimeters in overall length and weighs 80 to 125 grams. The male of the nominate subspecies has bright yellow upperparts with a small erectile crest of 4 to 6 sickle-shaped dark buff feathers that are usually concealed. They are found in the mountains of eastern and southeastern New Guinea. The habitat is upper montane and subalpine forest where there is dense vegetation. It eats only fruits which are plucked and eaten whole without any manipulation using the feet. The white-necked rockfowl is mainly found in rocky forested areas at higher altitudes in West Africa from Guinea to Ghana. Its distribution is patchy, with populations often being isolated from each other. The rockfowl typically chooses to live near streams and inselbergs. Its unusually long, dark brown tail is used for balance, and its thighs are muscular. The head is nearly featherless, with the exposed skin being bright yellow except for two large, circular black patches located just behind the eyes. These rockfowl feed primarily on insects, though parents feed small frogs to their young. It moves through the forest primarily through a series of hops and bounds or short flights in low vegetation. This species rarely flies for long distances. It is monogamous and pairs nest either alone or in the vicinity of other pairs, sometimes in colonies with as many as 8 nests. These nests are constructed out of mud formed into a deep cup and are built on rock surfaces, typically in caves. This species is classified as vulnerable as its dwindling and fragmented populations are threatened by habitat destruction. Black-capped Donychobiuses are common in a wide range of Amazonian wetlands. Mating for life, pairs of black-capped Donychobiuses can be seen frequently and throughout the day atop thickets of dense lakeside or streamside vegetation. They often will engage in antiphonic duetting. Adult offspring will remain with their parents and help raise siblings from subsequent nesting periods in a system of cooperative breeding. Chinese wame is 21 to 25 centimeters long with broad, rounded wings and a fan-shaped tail. The plumage is mostly reddish-brown with dark streaks on the crown, back and throat. It is a skulking bird which is often very difficult to see. It typically feeds on the ground among leaf litter, foraging for insects and fruit. It usually occurs in pairs or in small groups. The breeding season lasts from May to July. A large cup-shaped nest is built up to 2 meters above the ground in a tree or bush or amongst undergrowth. 2 to 5 blue or blue-green eggs are laid. As the name suggests, the crested finchbill is known for the distinctive crest on its head. It has a robust and compact body with a short tail. The plumage is generally olive-brown with a lighter underbelly. It primarily feed on fruits, berries and insects. They are known to forage in the canopy of trees, using their strong bills to extract food. These birds are often found in small flocks and are known for their active and social behavior. They communicate using various calls and may engage in cooperative behaviors, especially during breeding and feeding. They typically build cup-shaped nests in trees. The female usually lays a small clutch of eggs, and both parents are involved in incubation and caring for the chicks. Red-vented bulbuls feed on fruits, petals of flowers, nectar, and insects. They build their nests in bushes at a height of around 2 to 3 meters. Nests are occasionally built inside houses or in a hole in a mud bank. They breed from June to September and lay 2 or 3 eggs in a typical clutch. The eggs are pale pinkish with spots of darker red denser at the broad end. They are capable of having multiple clutches in a year. Their vocalizations are usually stereotyped and they call throughout the year. The red-vented bulbul was among the first animals other than humans that was found to be incapable of synthesizing vitamin C. However, a large number of other birds were later found to likewise lack the ability to synthesize vitamin C. The barn swallow is the most widespread species of swallow in the world. It appears to have the largest natural distribution of any of the world's passerines, ranging over 251 million square kilometers globally. It is a distinctive passerine bird with blue upperparts and a long, deeply forked tail. In Anglophone Europe it is just called the swallow. In Northern Europe it is the only common species called a swallow rather than a martin. There are 6 subspecies of barn swallow, which breed across the Northern Hemisphere. Its huge range means that the barn swallow is not endangered, although there may be local population declines due to specific threats. It is a bird of open country that normally nests in man-made structures and consequently has spread with human expansion. It builds a cup nest from mud pellets in barns or similar structures and feeds on insects caught in flight. This species lives in close association with humans, and its insect-eating habits mean that it is tolerated by humans. This acceptance was reinforced in the past by superstitions regarding the bird and its nest. There are frequent cultural references to the barn swallow in literary and religious works due to both its living in close proximity to humans and its annual migration. The barn swallow is the national bird of Austria and Estonia. The long-tailed tit is insectivorous throughout the year. It eats predominantly arthropods, preferring the eggs and larvae of moths and butterflies. Occasional vegetable matter, such as seeds, is taken in the autumn. Due to high predation, there is a high nest failure rate. If nest failure occurs after the beginning of May, failed breeders will not try to re-nest, but may become helpers at a nest of another, usually related, pair. In one study, around 50% of nests had one or more helpers. By helping close relatives, helpers gain indirect fitness benefits by increasing the survivability of related offspring. Helpers may also gain greater access to mates and territories in the future. Helpers also gain experience raising young and therefore their future offspring have greater survivability rates. Verdins are insectivorous, continuously foraging among the desert trees and scrubs. Verdins occasionally try to obtain sugar water from hummingbird feeders. Little is known about geographic or individual variation in vocalizations. Verdins produce a variety of calls, loud for their size. The North American Breeding Bird Survey suggests that verdin populations have declined by 2% per year between 1968 and 2015. This decline could mean that the species has experienced a cumulative decrease of 60% in that 47-year period. Threats to verdin populations include habitat loss as a result of urbanization, human structure collisions, and predation. Tits are active, noisy, and social birds. They are territorial during the breeding season and often join mixed-species feeding flocks during the non-breeding season. The tits are highly adaptable, and after the corvids and parrots, amongst the most intelligent of all birds. The sultan tit is an Asian forest bird with a yellow crest, dark bill, black upperparts plumage and yellow underparts. The sexes are similar. The female has greenish-black upperparts and a yellowish throat. The young bird is duller than the adult and has a shorter crest. The great tit is a widespread and common species throughout Eurasia where it is generally resident in any sort of woodland. Most great tits do not migrate except in extremely harsh winters. Until 2005 this species was lumped with numerous other subspecies. DNA studies have shown these other subspecies to be distinct from the great tit and these have now been separated as 2 distinct species. The great tit is a distinctive bird with a black head and neck, prominent white cheeks, olive upperparts, and yellow underparts, with some variation amongst the numerous subspecies. It is predominantly insectivorous in the summer, but will consume a wider range of food items in the winter months, including small hibernating bats. The great tit has adapted well to human changes in the environment and is a common and familiar bird in urban parks and gardens. The great tit is also an important study species in ornithology. The somber tits occur in low density in thin woodlands at the elevation range between 1,000 and 1,600 meters above sea level. Similar to the other tit species, it is a cavity nesting species, which makes the nests in the holes in juniper, willow, poplar, and other relevant tree species. In some cases, they nest in iron pipes, and in artificial nest boxes. The species appear to be resident in the country with slight local movements. They breed on mountain slopes and in open deciduous forest, lower down on in trees and bushes in rocky terrain, as well as in fruit orchards. Rufous-bellied tit's habitat is subtropical or tropical dry miombo forests. This 15-centimeter-long bird has a black head, breast, wings and tail, gray upperparts, white fringes to the wing feathers and rufous underparts. The adult has a yellow eye, brown in the duller juvenile. The cinnamon-breasted tit has sometimes been considered conspecific with the rufous-bellied tit. The cinnamon-breasted tit has a dark gray breast, washed-out underparts, and a brown eye at all ages. The Bohemian waxwing, a starling-sized passerine bird that breeds in the northern forests of the Palearctic and North America. It has mainly buff-gray plumage, black face markings and a pointed crest. Its wings are patterned with white and bright yellow, and some feather tips have the red waxy appearance that give this species its English name. Waxwings can be very tame in winter, entering towns and gardens in search of food, rowan berries being a particular favorite. They can metabolize alcohol produced in fermenting fruit, but can still become intoxicated, sometimes fatally. Other hazards include predation by birds of prey, infestation by parasites and collisions with cars or windows. The gray catbird can be attracted by pishing sounds. They are not afraid of predators and respond to them aggressively by flashing their wings and tails and by making their signature mew sounds. They are also known to even attack and peck predators that come too near their nests. They are omnivores, and approximately 50% of their diet is fruit and berries. They tend to peck more fruit than they can eat. The catbird tends to avoid dense, unbroken woodlands, and does not inhabit coniferous, pine woodland. Catbirds prefer a dense vegetative substrate, especially if thorny vegetation is present. Eastern bluebirds are social, and will sometimes gather in flocks of over 100. However, they are territorial during the breeding season and may continue to defend a feeding area throughout the winter. About 2/3 of an adult bluebird's diet consists of insects and other invertebrates. Eastern bluebirds can live for 6 to 10 years. However, most bluebirds die within their first year of life. Starvation and freezing are a danger to the young, but most threats come from other animals, including humans. Bluebirds were popular with early American colonists and associated with the coming of spring. They were referred to as the blue robin because of their resemblance to the European robin. Blackstart inhabit rocky or stony desert landscapes, slopes and canyons. They are well adapted to arid environments and are often found in areas with scattered vegetation. They have a distinctive black tail, which contrasts with their pale or grayish body. The male and female have similar plumage. They are known for their active and agile foraging behavior. They hop and run on the ground, searching for insects and other small invertebrates. They may also perch on rocks or low vegetation. Some populations of blackstarts are migratory, while others are resident. Migration patterns may vary depending on the region and local conditions. The robin is diurnal, although it has been reported to be active hunting insects on moonlit nights or near artificial light at night. Well known to European gardeners, it is relatively unafraid of people and drawn to human activities involving the digging of soil, in order to look out for earthworms and other food freshly turned up. It is considered to be a gardener's friend, and from the traditional association of the red breast with the blood of Christ, the robin would never be harmed. In continental Europe, on the other hand, robins were hunted and killed as were most other small birds, and are therefore more wary. They also approach large wild animals, such as wild boar, which disturb the ground, to look for any food that might be brought to the surface. Male robins are noted for their highly aggressive territorial behavior. They will fiercely attack other males and competitors that stray into their territories and have been observed attacking other small birds without apparent provocation. The avian magnetic compass of the robin has been extensively researched and uses vision-based magnetoreception, in which the robin's ability to sense the magnetic field of the Earth for navigation is affected by the light entering the bird's eye. The physical mechanism of the robin's magnetic sense involves quantum entanglement of electron spins in cryptochrome in the bird's eyes. The verditer flycatcher is an old-world flycatcher. It is found from the Himalayas through Southeast Asia to Sumatra. This species is named after its distinctive shade of copper sulfate blue and has a dark patch between the eyes and above the bill base. The adult males are intense blue on all areas of the body, except for the black eye patch and gray vent. Adult females and subadults are lighter blue. The verditer flycatcher is also interesting among the flycatchers in that they forage above the canopy level and perching on electric wires or exposed tree top branches. During the breeding season, northern wheatears prefer open, rocky habitats such as tundra, moorlands and rocky outcrops. During migration, they can be found in a variety of habitats, including fields and coastal areas. These birds have a distinctive appearance with a white eye stripe, a black mask on their face, and a peach-colored wash on their chest. Males and females are generally similar in appearance, but females may have more subdued colors. They are known for their characteristic wheatear song. They are also skilled ground foragers, hopping and running along the ground as they search for insects and other invertebrates. Have one of the longest migratory journeys of any small bird. They breed in the Arctic and subarctic regions and then migrate south to Africa for the winter. The return journey in spring covers thousands of kilometers. The black redstart is a member of a temperate Eurasian clade, which also includes the Dorian redstart, Hodgson's redstart, the white-winged redstart and perhaps Przewalski's redstart. The ancestors of the present species diverged from about 3 million years ago onwards and spread throughout much of Palearctic from 1.5 million years onward. It is not very closely related to the common redstart. As these are separated by different behavior and ecological requirements and have not evolved fertilization barriers, the two European species can produce apparently fertile and viable hybrids. The Zapata wren, a medium-sized grayish-brown bird that lives in dense shrubs of the Zapata swamp, in Cuba. It is the only member of the monotypical genus Firminia, which is endemic to Cuba and endangered. This species was first described in 1926 by Thomas Barber. Measuring about 16 centimeters in length, it is brown overall, though striped with black and with grayish underparts. Its tail is long. The bird's song is similar to that of the house wren, in that it is high-pitched and loud, described as a musical warble preceded by guttural note, given in series of 3 or 4 phrases. The gray-breasted wood wren forages singly or in small groups from the ground to only as high as 2 meters in vegetation. Its diet appears to be solely invertebrates. The nest has a round egg chamber with a downward-facing antechamber and is constructed of fibrous rootlets with moss attached to the exterior. It is placed in vegetation up to 3 meters above the ground, often over a bank or ravine. 2 eggs are laid and the female alone incubates them. Both sexes feed the young. The songs and calls of the gray-breasted wood wren vary considerably across its range. In general, the songs are a series of very loud, ringing, energetic musical phrases, frequently repeated. It sings virtually year-round and throughout the day, in all types of weather, and is far more commonly heard than seen. Leaf birds usually feed in the canopy, eating insects and some fruit and nectar. Prey is searched for by nimbly moving along the branch ends and gleaned. They are also capable of hover gleaning to obtain prey, and will pursue flushed prey into the air or even as far as the forest floor. Unlike most tropical Asian passerines, the nests of leaf birds are not located low down in the forest, but are instead found on the ends of branches near the tree crown. As such, the nests of many species have rarely, if ever, been seen. Asian fairy bluebird is common in most of the tracks it frequents, going about in small parties or in pairs. It feeds principally on fruit and is generally found on the larger forest trees. The Asian fairy bluebird measures 24 to 27 centimeters in length. The iris is crimson and eyelids pinkish, the bill, legs and claws are black, and mouth a flesh color. Marked sexual dimorphism is evident. The male is a shining ultramarine blue with lilac reflections on its upper plumage, lesser wing coverts, and undertail coverts, while the sides of its head and the whole lower plumage are deep black, greater wing coverts, quills, and tail black, and some of the coverts tipped with blue, and the middle tail feathers glossed with blue. The brown-headed cowbird is an obligate brood parasite. It lays its eggs in the nests of other small passerines, particularly those that build cup-like nests. The brown-headed cowbird eggs have been documented in nests of at least 220 host species, including hummingbirds and raptors. More than 140 different species of birds are known to have raised young cowbirds. Unlike the common cuckoo, the brown-headed cowbird is not divided into genties whose eggs imitate those of a particular host. Host species sometimes notice the cowbird egg, with different hosts reacting to the egg in different ways. The red-billed buffalo weaver has been observed in small family groups or in large flocks. Males tend to be polygamous and control anywhere from 1 to 8 nest chambers with 3 females. Typically, there is one dominant male who controls the most chambers and the most females. The males in lower social positions control fewer chambers and fewer females. These males will defend their chambers and females by showing aggressive displays and giving loud calls. However, 2 males sometimes cooperate with each other to build the nest, defend their territory, and help feed the chicks. Kirtland's warbler is primarily found in specific breeding areas in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ontario, in Canada. It is known for its highly specialized breeding habitat requirements. These warblers are closely associated with young jack pine forests, specifically those that are 5 to 20 years old and have been affected by fire or logging. The birds nest on the ground beneath the cover of young pine trees. The male is known for its distinctive and melodious song, which is described as a series of musical notes. The song is used for territory establishment and courtship. Nearly extinct just 50 years ago, populations have recovered due to conservation efforts. It requires large areas, greater than 65 hectares, of dense young jack pine for its breeding habitat. Sunbirds make up the family Nectarinidae. They are small, slender passerines from the Old World, usually with downward curved bills. Many are brightly colored, often with iridescent feathers. Particularly in the males there are 146 species in 16 genera. Most sunbirds feed largely on nectar, but will also eat insects and spiders, especially when feeding their young. Flowers that prevent access to their nectar because of their shape are simply punctured at the base near the nectaries, from which the birds sip the nectar. Fruit is also part of the diet of some species. Their flight is fast and direct, thanks to their short wings. These birds are an example of convergent evolution with hummingbirds. As a typical sunbird, Mr. Gould's sunbird feeds on nectar. The elongated and tubular tongue is modified for sucking the nectar from tube-shaped flowers. It also takes small invertebrates. It is generally resident but may undertake small-scale seasonal migrations. It is usually seen solitary or in pairs, although temporary groups of 3 to 5 or even more than 10 individuals can form. It moves quickly and flies for short distances. It is a small sunbird. It has a down-curved and pointed beak, typical for a nectar feeder. The iris of the eye is usually deep brown, and the tarsus is black. The male is bright and colorful. The forehead to crown, supercilium and throat of the sunbird are deep violet. The lower, the auriculars and the malar region, the nape, mantle and side are bright red to deep scarlet. Overall, the family has fared better than many others, with only 7 species considered to be threatened with extinction. Most species are fairly resistant to changes in habitat, and while attractive the family is not sought after by the cage bird trade, as they have what is considered an unpleasant song and are tricky to keep alive. Sunbirds are considered attractive birds and readily enter gardens where flowering plants are planted to attract them. There are a few negative interactions. For example, the scarlet-chested sunbird is considered a pest in cocoa plantations as it spreads parasitic mistletoes. Most sunbird species can take nectar by hovering like a hummingbird, but usually perch to feed most of the time. As a fairly large sunbird, the malachite sunbird is no exception. They have long thin down-curved bills and brush-tipped tubular tongues, both adaptations to nectar feeding. Malachite sunbird is monogamous. The oval nest is usually suspended, as with most sunbirds, or constructed inside a bush. The female incubates 1 to 3 dark-blotched, greenish eggs for 2 weeks. The chicks are fed by both parents until fledging time, and the chicks will for a time return to the nest to roost. Red avidivat is usually seen in small flocks, flying with rapid wing beats and descending into grass clumps where they are hard to observe. This small finch is easily identified by the rounded black tail and the bill that is seasonally red. The rump is red and the breeding male is red on most of the upper parts except for a black eye stripe, lower belly and wings. There are white spots on the red body and wing feathers. The non-breeding male is duller but has the red rump while the female is duller with less of the white spotting on the feathers. Though the current conservation status of red avidivat is least concern, it has become increasingly uncommon in at least part of Southeast Asia. The Java sparrow has been a popular cage bird in Asia for centuries, first in China's Ming dynasty and then in Japan from the 70th century, frequently appearing in Japanese paintings and prints. In Asia, it is most often raised almost from birth by human breeders and owners, and they become very tame and attached to humans. As such, they can be normally kept in relatively small cages, but let out for indoor exercise without their attempting to escape. In the wild, it is considered by some countries to be an agricultural pest with respect to rice cultivation. An ongoing loss of natural habitat, hunting in some areas and trapping in others has led to much smaller numbers in the wild, and sightings in its natural range have become increasingly uncommon. The russet sparrow is a passerine bird of the sparrow family. A chunky little seed-eating bird with a thick bill, it has a body length of 14 to 15 centimeters. Its vocalizations are sweet and musical chirps, which when strung together form a song. Its diet makes it a minor pest in agricultural areas, but also a predator of insect pests. While breeding, it is not social, as its nests are dispersed. It forms flocks when not breeding, although it associates with other bird species infrequently. In some parts of its range, the russet sparrow migrates, at least to lower altitudes. Its nest is located in a tree cavity, or a hole in a cliff or building. The male chooses the nest site before finding a mate and uses the nest for courtship display. The Eurasian tree sparrow has a rich chestnut crown and nape and a black patch on each pure white cheek. The sexes are similarly plumaged, and young birds are a duller version of the adult. Although several subspecies are recognized, the appearance of this bird varies little across its extensive range. Its untidy nest is built in a natural cavity, a hole in a building, or the disused nest of a European magpie or white stork. It is widespread in the towns and cities of Eastern Asia, but in Europe, it is a bird of lightly wooded open countryside, with the house sparrow breeding in the more urban areas. The Eurasian tree sparrow's extensive range and large population ensure that it is not endangered globally, but there have been large declines in Western European populations, in part due to changes in farming practices involving increased use of herbicides and loss of winter stubble fields. The Eurasian chaffinch is a common and widespread small passerine bird in the finch family. The male is brightly colored with a blue-gray cap and rust-red underparts. The male bird has a strong voice and sings from exposed perches to attract a mate. The female builds a nest with a deep cup in the fork of a tree. During the breeding season, they forage on trees for invertebrates, especially caterpillars, and feed these to their young. They are partial migrants. Birds breeding in warmer regions are sedentary, while those breeding in the colder northern areas of their range winter further south. The eggs and nestlings of the chaffinch are taken by a variety of mammalian and avian predators. Its large numbers and huge range mean that chaffinches are classed as of least concern. The pine grosbeak is a large member of the true finch family. It is found in coniferous woods across northern hemisphere. The species is a frugivore, especially in winter, favoring small fruits, such as rowans. With fruit crop abundance varying from year to year, pine grosbeak is one of many subarctic resident bird species that exhibit eruptive behavior. In eruption years, individuals can move long distances in search of suitable food supplies, bringing them farther south and/or downslope than is typical of years with large fruit crops. The breeding habitat of the pine grosbeak is coniferous forests. They nest on a horizontal branch or in a fork of a conifer. The Eurasian bullfinch is a bulky bull-headed bird. The upper parts are gray. The flight feathers and short thick bill are black, as are the cap and face in adults, and the white rump and wing bars are striking in flight. The adult male has red underparts, but females and young birds have gray-buff underparts. This species does not form large flocks outside the breeding season, and is usually seen as a pair or family group. The food is mainly seeds and buds of fruit trees, which can make it a pest in orchards. In England, for centuries every parish paid a bounty for every Eurasian bullfinch killed. Ash and hawthorn are favored in autumn and early winter. Gray-crowned rosy finches inhabit alpine and subalpine zones, especially rocky areas and mountain slopes. Their diet consists of seeds, particularly from grasses and other alpine plants. They may also feed on insects during the breeding season. They are social birds, often seen in flocks, especially during the non-breeding season. They forage on the ground and may also visit bird feeders at higher elevations. Some populations are migratory, moving to lower elevations during the winter. However, others may remain in their high-altitude habitats year-round. While the overall population is considered stable, certain regional populations may face threats, such as habitat alteration due to climate change or human activities. European goldfinches are primarily seed-eaters. They are often seen in small flocks, and they are agile flyers. They are known for their melodious twittering and calls. They may also be attracted to bird feeders offering appropriate seeds. They are appreciated for their colorful plumage and cheerful songs. They have been featured in various artworks and literature throughout history. These finches are social birds and are often seen in small to large flocks, especially during the non-breeding season. They may form mixed flocks with other finch species. They are highly adaptable and have become common visitors to bird feeders in urban and suburban areas. While the overall population of European goldfinches is considered stable, conservation efforts are crucial to maintain suitable habitats and address potential threats, especially in areas undergoing rapid urbanization. The red crossbill is a small passerine bird in the finch family. Crossbills are characterized by the mandibles crossing at their tips, which gives the group its English name. Using their crossed mandibles for leverage, crossbills are able to efficiently separate the scales of conifer cones and extract the seeds on which they feed. Adult males tend to be red or orange in color, and females green or yellow, but there is much variation. The distinctive crossed mandibles eliminate most other species, but this feature is shared by the similar two-barred crossbill, with which it overlaps considerably in range. The two-barred crossbill has two bright white wing bars, while the wings of the red crossbill are entirely brownish-black.